Hello and welcome to my masterclass on Daddy Daycare. The title of this episode is Three's a Crowd. So first off, let's start off with the visual, which is a shout out to sort of vintage Hollywood, or at least as I see it. And I've been jonesing for it these days. I've been singing the theme song to Gilligan's Island to my son to get him to go to bed at night. And I'm also from Southern California, and so this sort of has its own personal attachment to it for me. And I really thought it was a fun way of kicking this episode off. And I use the term three's a crowd because I'm talking to the collective unit of, husband, wife, or whatever, two partners and a child. And um, it not only does it obviously require two people to have a kid, but it takes two people to raise a kid, and having two people actively engaged and really on point and focused on the best for a child is good. And there are lots of situations where that's fantastic and it's essential. But there are also situations where it's bad. And when the stakes are lower and spaces are tighter, one parent is probably enough. And oftentimes it's better. Um, and I'll sort of like approach this from both sides. So let's take something like travel. Now it's tricky now with COVID, but let's say travel in an airport or travel in a car or a train or whatever. Travel is always good with both parents. There's a lot. There's the pilot, there's the co-pilot, there's the cargo, there is navigation, there's supplies, sunscreen, food, water, all of those things, and having both parents, dialed in is helpful. Make sure you don't forget anything, and you've got all the materials and entertainment, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the tide can turn when you start to get into more granular tasks. And let's say like changing a diaper. This happens all the time. But both parents changing a diaper, being involved in the changing diaper process, not good. Diaper changing is not a two-person operation. You can be both well-intentioned and want to be there to support and all that jazz, but you're going to step on your toes, on each other's toes. You're going to trip each other up. It's just better to have one person take the job and one person go find something else to do. And that scales up into a lot of different situations. When you're watching a child, oftentimes having both parents in the mix watching the child can distract both the parents because they can get engaged with each other rather than paying attention to the kid. And it can be subtle. You just sort of get, you start talking to each other about, what you're gonna have for dinner, what you're gonna do the next day, and then you're having a conversation, and all of a sudden the kid's like, "Hey," and it's not that neither one of you want to be good parents or you're not being good parents. It's just there's just too many of you. There's three's a crowd. One of you needs to leave, and that's okay. And there's no one should feel wronged about that. It's just a matter of finding what things one parent does and what thing the other parent does, and it will be different for every couple. Um, but what works for us, or at least a good way to start, is, at least for me, just change all the diapers. Just do all of them. And that'll make things nice and simple. And on the one hand, my wife will gladly let me do all the diapers. And I doubt there is a female or male, whatever, a partner out there who um, wishes that they could do more diapers. Nobody wants to change lots and lots of diapers. And so the wives out there would be glad to sort of use that sticky, icky grossness, because women don't like sticky, icky, gross. And men can tolerate sticky, icky, gross, or at least those that were in fraternities. And so for the guys out there, like, all right, cool. You can be a tough dude, roll your sleeves up, change the diaper. It's not that big a deal. It's like taking out the trash, and your wife's always going to appreciate that. But the other thing that's really interesting about changing diapers is that I have found that it kind of functions similar to breastfeeding. The connection between a mom and a child that occurs through breastfeeding can never be matched by a man. It's just never going to happen. You will never have the opportunity to engage at that level of repeated intimacy that has a physical component to it that's essential, like breastfeeding will. But diaper changing is sort of a similar kind of thing. You kind of there's a physical component to it, there's an essential component to it, there's a repetition component to it. And for the dads out there who can lean into it and be like, you know what, I'll just change all the diapers. It will really allow you to bond with your kid in a way that is slow and steady. and who knows what the benefits of that are. And you're taking a task that your wife probably doesn't want you to want to do anyway, and so you'll score some husband points at the same time. So anyway, I just sort of wanted to toss that out as a fun little anecdote for this fun in the sun, and I hope that you're all staying safe out there and take care.